Right guys, welcome back to Katran TV, and you are joining us back at Westmoor Farm. Only this time, I think the last time we were here, we were on the Specimen Lake, in fact we were, and this time we're down on the Sandpit. And I've got to tell you, it's a very different, well it's not a different lake, but there's been a hell of a lot of work done here. So it's very different to the last time that I fished it. We have got a couple of lads actually over on the Specimen Lake, so we're going to try and catch up with them. But myself and Chris Yoxall, we've got 48 hours to try and winkle out a carp out of here, and tactics wise, you know, I think we'll look at that. We're losing the light actually, you know, so we'll look at that in more detail tomorrow. But in short, maggots are back. You know, it's that time of year where you know, the maggots are allowed, and speaking to Jack, you know, he's been very clear in saying use them, you know what I mean? So the bait boats are out, the maggots are out, the rods are in. We'll have a real good look at the rigs, the mix. I've done something a little bit different. Whether it pays off or not, I don't know, but we'll have a good look at that tomorrow. And you know, with the time of year that we've got, there's every chance that we'll get a bite after dark. And if that happens, you'll be the first to know. So we'll catch up with you properly in a bit. Right guys, well as I said to you earlier, I'm going to do something that's just a little bit different to the norm now. Match fishermen out there, they will not see this as different. I mean, using ground bait is pretty much common practice, but with the match guys. But carp anglers, for whatever reason, they don't tend to use it now. With live baits in particular, it's a great way of making sure that you can get some of your live bait directly around your hook bait, and also adding, you know, an extra layer of attraction to the swim, and it also holds fish really well. It can keep fish grubbing about for some time. So, you know, any ground bait with a good amino profile and that's not too glarish, I think is best. But we'll see if it works. But it's definitely different, you know, and you know, often if it's different, it's not a bad shout.
Right, morning guys, this is the prize at the end of the first night on Westmoor. A couple of weird occurrences through the night, to be fair. So after a bit of a conflab with Luke, we had a tactical change. Nothing major, we just upped the lead size to 6 ounce, and then yeah, not too long after that, probably an hour before first light, all the difference was made, and a positive indication resulted in a lovely 22.5 pound common, which is quite lively. And there we go. Nice and easy tactics. Just phantom D rigs, nothing too crazy. J precision hooks. Hopefully get a few more later in the day.
Right guys, well good morning, and it is now Saturday morning, and just to give you a bit of a rundown of what's happened. We arrive, what time we get here?
I got here at 6.
He got here. Chris got here at 6, I got here at 7, and just to avoid the traffic, you know how it is. But obviously we can't get in the peg till 10 o'clock, so buzzed around the site a little bit. Little bit of footage for you guys around the fishery and the tackle shop and all the rest of it. And as we were walking down here, we noticed plenty of fish tucked away it's basically where they've dammed off the I think it's the retreat over there. So, you know, it was an obvious shout, wasn't it, for one of us to go that side of the swim.
Yeah.
So and I think pretty much the fish have been there on and off a lot of the time, and feeding when they want to feed. So Chris pitched up in there, I pitched up next to him, and we'll have a decent look at the swim in just a little bit, but basically you're a bit sport for choice, you know what I mean? There's islands and lovely margins, all the rest of it. So I opted to basically spread my bets, you know. So one in between the one set of islands, one in, there's basically an area that creates a triangle that's sort of like an out of bounds area in between the islands, if you know what I mean. So I've put one in there right on the edge of the boundary, and then one right in front of the island as I look at it. Right, so there's one bang in front of the swim, and that particular area is the only place we've consistently seen fish. But you managed to nick one, didn't you, pal?
Managed to have one. I think, to be fair, for me it was a bit easier where to put my rods than you. I think the fish basically told me where to put the rods, which was then confirmed when is it Jack?
Yeah.
Jack come round and saw us and said, put one there, put one there. That does a lot of fish, which is where the fish were already showing before we'd even got in here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we just made that happen. Started off just doing what I do everywhere, really. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
And not a lot of bait either, I think it's worth saying.
Yeah, it is worth saying, mate. It is worth saying.
Don't know how much bait's down there from the lads before.
That's something to bear in mind, actually. Whenever you rock up at any day ticket, always have in the back of your minds, there's going to be bait out there, especially a really pressured day ticket like this one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
I think the more the session's gone on, we've sort of, definitely down this side, we can see where the lads last week have been fishing.
Yeah. It's
not where I've dropped my bait, but it is on that line, which, you know, who knows, you might have caught over their bait, you might not.
Exactly.
I'd rather have a fresh canvas to go at than... Because you still don't know how much is there, do you? So
no, you don't, mate, you don't. I think it's worth pointing out as well, maggots are allowed now, so we use them. I mean, Chris has gone very much a boilie and maggot approach, hasn't you?
Yeah.
I went more maggot and pellet, but worth pointing out, the fish was getting rid of maggots out of its backside on the map, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they're definitely on the maggot. Now, moving forward, it hasn't happened for me, so I'm going to focus my attack on where I've seen the fish. And it's also worth pointing out, there were some really odd occurrences for you, wasn't there? And the bite that you had was very, very finicky. I mean,
tench, mate.
It was like a tench, and I personally believe that's because probably this lake now is dominated by bait boats. I think what happens, or what can happen in that instance, is fish will, they're used to feeding tail up over small areas of bait, which means they're not moving about, you know, so they're not moving from bait to bait, are they? And that can create sort of finicky feeding. So I think you're going to try and knock that on its arse, aren't you? And try and
I'm going to go completely the opposite way. I mean,
yeah.
I'm fishing, I ended up having the take on a 6-ounce lead on a 5-inch rig.
Yeah.
Don't really want to go any shorter than that.
No.
So the only thing I'm going to do now is completely change the baiting approach and go more sort of what you would call casting baiting approach.
Yeah.
Probably still going to drop the rigs with the boat so I can use the 6-ounce leads and not scare everything out.
Yeah.
The postcode.
Yeah.
But I'm going to definitely go more boilie only.
Yeah.
Spread them over the whole area where we've seen fish.
Yeah.
Hopefully get them moving more.
Yeah.
Make them easier to catch, really, more than anything.
And I'm going to go the opposite again, and I'm going to basically lean into what's been happening, but I'm going to go balls deep in one area. So all 3 rods in the kill zone where I've seen fish, but I'm going to switch to solid bags. So I was fishing, I've got 3 revolvers out there, which is basically a pop-up combi style rig at the moment, but fishing them with wafters. This time 4-ounce inline leads, solid bags, short rigs, and I'm going to give them plenty of bait to try and home them into an area in front of the island. Right guys, well, you know I said I was going to put 3 PVA bags out? Well, I'm not anymore. I knocked the rigs up ready to go, and I took one look at them. To be honest, I thought, maggots in a solid bag I'm never really happy with. I want to invest in, you know, sort of commit to the maggots. So it's back with the big old stocking full of maggots. Same rigs, I'm just going to stick revolver rigs back out there, and a wafter with a Medusa on the top. Fishing sort of stick style, not sort of classic Magaliner style. and yeah, that way I know I can get a really decent amount of bait right by the hook bait. Plenty of bait in the hopper, plenty of maggots in the hopper, on the premise that I think they are on the feed. We have got a pressure drop too. That's what you've got to do. If you get a hunch and you're not happy, switch it up, and then you've only got yourself to blame if it goes wrong. Right, well I'm going to have to speak a little bit quiet because I'm over here on the specimen lake, so wound in briefly before we get the trap set for tonight to check in with our stew and see how it's going. So what's been going on then, Stu?
Well, it's a bit of a surprise really, because you said they don't show much.
I know.
In here. And I've ended up in, what's the swim called?
Oh, I can't think.
Right Lodge or something.
Yeah, Right Lodge, yeah.
Lodge. Don't think they've been out for 4 days previously.
No.
So I've put literally 2 single up baits out, and that is it. And the other rod, I put some single up bait out with a couple of spoonfuls of maggots on. There's some maggots on the top.
Yeah.
Shot worm on it.
Lovely.
A couple of blips on that, brought it back in, and obviously the perch just came the maggots on the top. So I ain't doing that tonight.
Oh right, okay.
So the plan is tonight. Now after seeing about, was it about 3:30 this morning, there must have been 20 odd fish shown over there, easy. We got, you know, some of them literally under the rod tips as well. So
yeah,
we'll put a bit of bait out tonight and just leave them there.
Yep.
And I'll put a good boatload out in each one.
Yeah.
Mixing it with a load of topsoil off the molehills.
Yeah. Don't be giving all your edges away, Stu.
I haven't been catching lately, so it ain't any different. But you know, it colours the water up nice because it's so clear.
Yeah. That's a good shout, that is, mate. It's a very good shout.
So you've got worms, maggots, topsoil.
Yeah. So you've gone in with a natural approach, really.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, a bit of alawak, just a mixed bag of stuff, just food signals and anything to try and entice a bite.
And sitting on your hands now, mate, a little bit and it on it.
Yeah, I've got another 2 rods to put out, and then that'll be me till they either go or they don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And talking to the lads, that you're all doing something slightly different, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm going to go and check in with Ironut in a bit. I never know if to call him Donut, Ironut or John.
Donut, I'd give up now.
Well, look, good luck, and if anything happens, don't forget to ring me, because we'll buzz round and film that £50.
I better get your number then, don't I?
You Right, I'm going to buzz round and catch up with, I've had enough of him already, so I'm going to buzz round and catch up with Donut, Ironut or John, whichever you want to call him.
You're long.
Right guys, following on from what we were talking about this morning, the 6-ounce leads are on all 3 rods now, just to help with indication, but other changes are the baiting approach, what we alluded to. I'm going to go with a more boilie only approach, spread the bait over the area with the stick and the catty, change the rig slightly, more sort of subtle rigs, a little bit longer, just because I want to keep the fish moving more rather than just sat over one spot. I just think they're going to be easier to catch going that way, and yeah, go from there really. Change all the hook baits over to the ones that I caught the fish on, and then see what happens from there.
Well, good morning. It paid off. Although he's going to make my life difficult, I think. He's only been in the sling 45 minutes, if that. So the time now is probably 7ish, something like that. Just gone 7 or something. But middle rod out the 3. Quite a lot of bait. One of the new raspberry wafters from Mad Baits, tipped with maggots, loads of maggots, and that big PVA stock on all 3 rods, so plenty of bait down there. And the fish were not active last night, but this one was kind enough to pay us a visit. £22 of just lovely mirror carp, you know, and that's the stamper fish that you get at the Sandpit. loads of fish over 30 now as well, so we've been unlucky to get one of them, but lucky enough to catch some absolute pearlers like this one. So I'm not going to leave him stress him out too much. We won't bother with his other side. Going to get him back and we'll talk to you about what's gone down. So yeah, we'll catch up with you in a bit. Well, we've just put that fish back and thought, is it the end? I actually said it would probably be the end. As I said, I left 3 on the spot. I put 3 on the spot last night. Sorry, you know, when we redid everything with the change of tactics. So when the first bite came, knowing I had 2 rods fishing, I didn't redo the rod in the hope that another fish picked us up. And one thing that's nice about these leg clips and the substrate leaders, and this isn't a plug, but every time you want that lead to come off, the fish is on the top already out there. They do drop their leads lovely, which is on Westmore, you know, one thing we haven't really spoken about the gear, but on Westmore they do insist that you drop the lead, which I believe is the right thing to do. So the tubing and the leg clips that come with the tubing, you have to be careful here because he's darting around the bay, are absolutely cock on for Westmore. Just going to concentrate now. Ask Chris to kindly pass me a net in a minute once we get into the position. Just got to watch his line. Well, the advantages of having 3 on the spot, and which rod was it, Chris?
This was the right.
The right hand rod's gone, so there's 1 left in play. I thought that was it, just because it's dropped off so cold, but you say when they're on the maggot, I think temperature, they often throw caution to the wind, and that's what this one's done. And again, probably going to give me a soaking, but this one went 23 on the button, with 1 rod still in play before we pack up. So I actually said during the fight, this is the same setup that I left. It was the same setup from Grenville. So I was casting leads 26-27 wraps with 17 pound Krypton, same rigs, same substrate tungsten tubing. Come to Westmore using the boat and everything's performed how you'd expect it to. And there we go. It probably is the last fish, but you never know. As I say, we've still got to catch up and have a proper run through. But yeah, turned out to be a lovely session. So we will catch up properly with you in a bit. Right guys, we're all packed up and we've just buzzed over to the Specimen Lake. You actually find us in one of the new cabins over here. I mean, it's all singing and all dancing over here, but we thought we'd give you a bit of a rundown, try and keep this brief. And one thing we haven't really spoken about at great length is the gear, and if you're not into plug-in products, it's probably a good idea to turn off now, because I do want to talk to you about the gear that we use. The interesting thing for me personally is how sort of universal the gear is. I mean, the last time I was out was at Grenville, you know, casting rods, 26-27 wraps with the exact same setup that I'm using here, you know, catching carp to over 50 pounds, and using the exact same setup here with a bait boat, you know, and exactly the same right down from the main line, which was 17 pound Krypton, to the tubing, which was substrate tubing, and even the same rigs, you know. And yeah, you know, everything's performed really, really well. The thing I would say is the tactical change paid off. I think for me personally, moving all 3 rods onto the spot where we saw the fish in front of the island was the right thing to do, you know, for bites. The bites came in quick succession when the fish turned up, and it dropped off bloody cold, didn't it, last night?
Fresh this morning, but as soon as we got the sunlight, they started edging the way back in, and it just looked the wand, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, it did. So yeah, as I say, maggots, the revolver rigs and little wafters over the top, and I did bait quite heavy, but because the fish was showing everywhere, you know, throughout, you know, they seemed active. Do you know what I mean? So from the time that we've been here, so for me personally, it was a case of capitalising on that, give them some grub, and hope for the best. And you went a bit different, didn't you?
Yeah, I decided to just go for how I normally do, really, try and single out the bigger fish. I think, hindsight, if we got another night, I think it might have happened.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, it's the chance you take when you want to fish like that.
Yeah.
But no regrets in changing over.
No.
I didn't see the point in us both doing the same thing really either. So
No, and do you know what? It's something you can, if you want to take anything from this, take that. If you want to get bites, you've got to get it right, you know. So as soon as Chris took maggots out of the mix,
died of death.
Died of death, and I continued with the maggots and got the bites. So there's something in that, whether you like it or not, you know. So, but anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed it. We've done our best, and I think the next time you see us, well, me particularly, we'll be back on Willow. Doing a bit of winter fishing. It's now the first day of winter, so yeah, will definitely be some winter fishing. But whatever you're doing, wish you all the best and good luck out on the bank.